I didn't actually think I was that patriotic of a guy, but turns out I'm drinking pink lemonade out of a wine glass. Doesn't get much more American than that. Hi guys, it's Dylan from Chess Lifestyle, and decided today to talk to you guys about a topic that doesn't get discussed much online from my experience, and also directly deals with my experience given that I'm from the US. I was born and raised here, and spent most of my life here, but I studied, got my master's degree in the UK. So I have experience with the tournament scenes in both the US and the UK, and I want to share that with you today. And not just the tournament scenes, I guess I just mean the chess scenes in general, all inclusive. So taking into account clubs, tournaments, events, elite players, juniors, in general prospects for pursuing chess at whatever level suits you. So hopefully by the end of this video you will have learned some of the similarities and differences between the two, and maybe come up with your own opinion on which chess scene is better. Okay, so I'm going to split this up into categories. The first category is going to be the youth circuits and general prospects for junior players, whether they can and do become successful. Yeah, the general rates of becoming a high-rated player from country to country, or yeah, just general opportunities for young players. And I will say that all of this information is coming from the perspective of somebody who, one, took up chess later in life, aka in my undergraduate years. So I was like 19 when I started taking chess seriously. I knew chess when I was young. I knew how, I started beating my dad pretty early, but I didn't actually take it seriously and play in competitions until I was 19. And two, I'm from the US, so all of this is coming from the perspective of someone who might be a little bit, I don't want to say biased, because I definitely perceive plenty of flaws in the US chess scene, and a lot of the systems in place. But in general, I will have more information and first-hand accounts from the perspective of the US chess scene. Okay, so going back to youth chess in the UK, I will say that there is the UK Chess Challenge, which has been around since I think the 90s, and was a really cool idea. It's an event that takes place, I think, throughout the year and in many different levels and events. There's the Mega Finals, the Giga Finals, and the Terra Finals, and each one determines who the best player in the area is expanding geographically. So the Mega Finals, for example, I think is like the county's strongest player. Maybe it's the schools. Anyway, it goes from like the school's best player to the counties to the geographical region of the entire island, like the north and south, so on. And the Terra Finals determines the strongest player in all of the UK. And this is really cool, at least the way it splits it up into different events. Another thing in the UK they have for juniors is chess in schools. And I'm not just saying that they have chess in schools implemented as part of the curriculum, which they do in a lot of schools, but mostly they're after-school programs, which is going to be the case in the US and the UK. But Chess in Schools is actually a company ran by Malcolm Payne, international master and also owner of the Chess and Bridge shop in the UK. Very nice and influential man. I know him personally because he sponsors Michael and I's Pro University Chess League. Chess in Schools is a non-for-profit initiative to just expand the game of chess into as many schools, into as many curriculums as possible throughout the UK, which is great. And the US also has initiatives like this, but it seems to me that chess in schools is a little bit more universal. It's non-for-profit. It's not so much determined by money, which is going to be a running theme when we're talking about US versus UK initiatives. Chess in Schools has programs in over 300 schools throughout the UK and supports over 500 more. and is constantly growing all the time. It's a great program, and if you have any extra money laying around, definitely recommend donating to that cause, because it is one of the prime ways chess is going to grow as a sport. Now, youth in the US is a little bit different. It's got a lot of similarities. The young players who get interested in chess usually come from areas where chess is already pretty established. For example, these days St. Louis is a big one, New York, generally large cities on the coasts will have more established chess clubs and after-school programs in a lot of the schools. So it is pretty dependent on the region the kids grow up in, which unfortunately they don't control. But there are all kinds of chess clubs popping up all over the place with an emphasis on teaching kids the game, which are being started by people with not a huge amount of wealth or resources, and they're just trying to make a go of it in cities like Atlanta. For example, Ben Feingold, he's not, a super rich guy, but he is pretty influential and well known. But despite this, I mean, there are all kinds of chess clubs throughout the country that aren't, the Brooklyn Chess Club or the St. Louis Chess Club, that are making a go of it and seem to be pretty successful. Now, in terms of objective strength, US versus UK, US tends to produce stronger players, especially at the top. It seems to me like the UK produces plenty of very strong players, but none that really end up in the top 100. For example, the current top 100 juniors in the world, none of them are from the UK, 10 of them are from the US. And that, again, has a lot to do with wealth and resources. Generally, I wouldn't attribute that as much to, which kids in which geographical areas tend to be the most talented. I really do think that's which kids have the access to better coaching and, better clubs and opportunities. That money tends to stem from wealthy donors such as Rex Singfield from the St. Louis Chess Club, which we will talk about more pretty soon. Some of these top juniors in the US include Jeffrey Zhang, Awander Leong, who else? Sam Sevian. Those are 3 of the top 100 juniors in the world, and they're pretty high up on the list. I think Jeffrey might even be number 1 right now. And while we're on the subject of youth chess, I guess I'll mention that I think both the US and the UK are doing really well in terms of promoting the game for women. I think the US has some more promising young female players like Annie Wang, Jennifer Yu, Carissa Yip. These are players that if they weren't born in the US, they were definitely raised here in the tournament circuit and were brought up on US chess. And I actually think that both communities are doing a good job of promoting the game amongst the mentally impaired, the physically disabled, and the blind. There's the Braille Chess Association. That's an international organization. There are international and national organizations in both countries which promote those causes very well. So as far as events for juniors go in the US, there are the US Junior Championships, which happen in St. Louis. It's an annual event, as well as the National Scholastic Championship, which is more of a, I think, high school event, and it determines the strongest high school players throughout the country. And I will say that high school is an American term. They call it secondary school in the UK. But as far as events for the UK and US junior players goes, I think I prefer the UK Chess Challenge to the US Junior Champs and National Scholastic Championships. And that's just because the UK Chess Challenge seems like it's a little bit more original of a format. It's a little more spread out, and it's more inclusive, which I really like. It's really appealing to players like myself who aren't, who don't have access to, high-end coaching, and we're not the strongest players yet. So I think it provides really good opportunity to compete with stronger players with better opportunities. One more thing I do want to mention about junior chess in America is the St. Louis Chess Club, which I touched on earlier, but I do think that it's such a key organization in terms of its influence on the entire chess world, let alone youth chess in America. So I currently live in Missouri, which is the same state that the St. Louis Chess Club is in. I just live across the state. I live in Kansas City. But I actually used to live in St. Louis and got to experience the chess club. I've been there many, many times. I used to hang out there. I actually lived a block away from it. And I got to experience firsthand just how influential it is. They're in countless schools stemming out from Missouri into the surrounding states. It has a rippling effect. It is having one, and continues to have a rippling effect throughout the US in terms of its dedication to promoting chess amongst children. So I think overall for the category of youth chess, I'm going to give the victory to the US, because even though it's a little bit more sporadic in terms of the opportunities available, and it's a little bit more dependent on funding, I think the fact that it's producing the stronger players, plus the influence of the St. Louis Chess Club here and abroad, I think can't be understated. So for me, I think I'm gonna have to go with my homeland on this one, but feel free to disagree with me. Okay, so let's move on to the category of university chess, or uni chess as they'd like to say in the UK. We'll start with the UK again. So BUCA is the main annual event that stands for the British University Chess Association. British University Chess Association, I think, yeah. And it's an annual event that brings together all of the nation's strongest university teams and pits them against each other in a classical tournament where you can put together as many teams as you want. For example, you can have 4 or 5 teams, but you have to fill each category first before you put a second team in any of the other categories. And there are rating restrictions as well. When I played in BUCA for UCL twice, I played in the 3rd team. So the first team had players of, title level strength. FM strength is kind of like an average rating for the first group. And that's kind of how it is across the board for all of the universities who enter. The second rating group is more like, under 2,000, maybe between 1,700 to 2,000 rating strength, then going down from there. So BUCA, I think, is a really great event. So BUCA is held in a city in the middle of England called Birmingham, which is a center of industry, for the whole of the UK pretty much. And it was the setting of Peaky Blinders, if you're familiar with that show. But yeah, not that scenic of a place, but it really is a great event. It's a 2-day event, so it's, I think, 5 rounds spread out between 2 days. I think it is a really good indicator of which university is the strongest that year. I had a really good time with my university. In the last 2 years, we actually brought, I think, 16 to 20 players per year, and everyone had a really good time. So a very positive experience. Another thing in the UK for university players is PUCL, which stands for the Pro University Chess League. And I'm proud to say that Michael and myself are the co-founders and organizers of this event. And we started last year. It was a very successful turnout, I thought. We had 16 teams from 8 universities compete all in person. We brought them to London once a month throughout the whole of the academic year to compete in an all-play-all rapid format event to sort of just promote the game amongst university players and provide sort of another platform for like-minded players and uni students to come together and enjoy the game. And we're also happy to announce that is going to be continuing on into this coming academic year, even in light of the COVID situation. We're gonna have it an online event. So we'll see how that goes. More on that later. Another element of chess in the UK university scene is the fact that, well, first of all, they're called societies at the UK. So there's the Chess Society at UCL, for example, that's where I went, versus chess clubs in the United States. They're just called something different. But I've definitely found that the UK has the US beat out when it comes to societies and how closely knit and more active they are than clubs in the US. For example, I was the founder and president of the University of Central Missouri Chess Club. Go Mules! But that sadly fell apart very quickly because most of the students who were interested were international, mostly Indian players, but they just quickly, maybe due to language barriers being an issue, but it very quickly dissipated in terms of the interest. I couldn't, despite how many tournaments I held or events or pizza parties or whatever, you can't keep people coming. And that's sort of an endemic problem, whether or regardless of which country you're in. But I have found that the UK societies tend to hold more interest than the US ones, especially more evenly across the board. Like, for example, of course, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, the Ivy League schools, and a bunch of other, big name chess programs will be able to hold more interest if they actually have an established chess club with funding, but most don't, and as a result, people are just going to not show up. So for the US, the one thing I do want to emphasize here is that the US university chess scene is very dependent on funding. And this is sort of a drawback to me because it means that players like myself who would like to compete for chess scholarships just don't have a chance. So it can't be incorporated into my university experience at the same type of level, like where I have access to coaching and competing for my university as I would have in the UK. So in the US, there's the Pan Ams and the President's Cup. The Pan Ams, Pan Americans, is sort of the annual tournament for UK players, similar to Buka. It's a little more prestigious, a little more elitist, because it really does bring together only the country's top university teams, containing players who are 23, 24, 2500. They're all titled players, and you don't have a shot unless you're of that caliber. So the President's Cup is also connected to that event. It's technically the final four of the Pan Ams, so it's an invitational, which invites only the top four placing teams of the Pan Ams. So again, pretty elitist, but entertaining nonetheless. The US has plenty of schools who offer scholarships for chess players, but again, you have to be a titled player to be eligible. I mean, I think it's a positive thing that exists, but I guess I just wish it was possible to make it a little bit more inclusive. And I guess I could mention some of the US programs who do provide some of those scholarships in case you're interested and are a relatively strong player. Those would be UT Dallas, Webster University, St. Louis University now has I think Alejandro Ramirez is running that program. Christian Carilla is running the new MU program. So they're spreading around, even like in my local area in the state of Missouri. It's really big, thanks to the St. Louis Chess Club, the backing by Rex Sinkfield. But let's see, what are some of the other ones? Yale, Harvard, Princeton, University of Illinois has a strong program. Oh, UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. That's a historically strong one. A lot of foreign players from Eastern European countries such as Romania, Bulgaria, even Russia, they'll immigrate to the United States to go to programs like that, like UMBC, and sort of dominate the university chess circuit. But I think traditionally Webster has been at the top for the last several years, which is another program in Missouri. Okay, so as a whole, I would like to see more universities in the UK take up chess a little bit more seriously. The funding just is not there for chess societies. At the same time, the funding in the US that is there is for very strong players, and it's a little bit more exclusive. So it's got pros and cons in both countries. I think I'm gonna give the result of this category a draw. All right, so moving on to club tournaments. So basically just, tournaments for any club player. So in the UK, there's the London Chess Classic, which is the main staple classical chess event in the UK. This is actually run by Malcolm Payne and Chess in Schools. I think this is a cool event because it brings together England's top players in a higher section, and they play side by side in the same venue as all of the lower rated sections. It's a very nice event in a very nice venue in the middle of central London. So it is very accessible for me. Another thing I like about it is that it provides free entry for junior players. So anyone, I think, below the age of 21 is free. That doesn't include me, obviously, but I wish it did. You might also be familiar with this event because it is one of the legs of the Grand Chess Tour. So another really cool, unique thing about the UK chess scene are leagues. And this was a complete epiphany to me when I came to the UK for school, and it's one of the main inspirations behind the Pro University Chess League. We don't have leagues in the US, and I think it's really cool to see such a tradition of different clubs throughout the UK actually competing in leagues against each other on a regular basis. And actually the reason this doesn't exist in the US is because the country is just so spread out. Like if we formed a club for Kansas City and a club for St. Louis, we would have to drive 4 hours to get to the other team's venue, and that's just not going to work out. So the coordination between clubs in the UK is so much greater just because it's possible geographically and it makes more sense. And I think that's just a really good way to stay active and play against a wide variety of different players in your area. And the last thing I want to talk about regarding the UK tournament scene for club players is the British Championship. And you might think that this is something exclusively for the strongest players in the nation, which is true, except that it also includes lower rating divisions. So again, this is a huge draw for me because it's very egalitarian. You get to play side by side with the best players around. It's just really cool having, you know, Simon Williams and Richard Pert and Ravi Haria, who's from my school, international master. Yeah, David Howell, Mickey Adams, all those guys are playing just meters away from you. And so yeah, I think that's really cool. And it's not something you see quite as much in the US. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Adam Raouf and Chess England while talking about chess tournaments in the UK, because Chess England pretty much organizes all of the tournaments in London, at least, some outside of London, which aren't the London Chess Classic or the British. So there's pretty much this central organizing body for chess tournaments in London, whereas there's nothing really comparable in the US. I guess the geography in the UK just lends itself to something like that. Okay, so for the US tournament scene, so there are state and city associations that have clubs which hold a lot of tournaments for local players to participate in. And those are usually pretty affordable to enter and usually don't feature the strongest players in the area, but more so the players who just want to be active and improve, I would say. There's a lot of bigger tournaments as well, which are annual events, which do bring together not only dedicated club players like myself, but some of the stronger players in the region as well, like the World Open in Philadelphia is an annual event. I actually went there. For example, I saw Jennifer Yu there, Lequan Liang, I think is his name, Vruj Nakobian, people like that. And these are really nice events. Pretty much all the tournaments in the US and the UK are held at banks and hotels. And a lot of them are really nice, some of them not so much, but that's pretty much what it's going to be across the board. There are also a lot of state championships. The New York State Championship is pretty important. The Chicago Open is a big one. I've played in that one. And then there's the US Championship, which is an annual event that is held in St. Louis and again sponsored by Rex Singfield. But just as the British Championship features the strongest players in Britain, the US Championship features the strongest players in the United States, only it doesn't also have those lower rated sections. Oh, one more thing before I move on to the next category that needs to be stated is that one key fundamental difference, they provide boards and clocks in the UK, no matter where you go. I've never seen a tournament in the UK that doesn't have clocks and boards set up for everyone when you get there, just ready to go. But in the US, if you go to a tournament like the Chicago Open and they're hosting, I don't know, like, 1,000, 2,000 players all in the same venue and in giant ballroom, there's no way they could accommodate that many boards and clocks, or at least the associations that run these events don't have the resources for that. So what you see is a very wide diversity of styles of boards and clocks, and jumbled together in this big ballroom, and it's really eclectic and fun, but it's also a little bit inconsistent and can result in some frustrations if you're running around trying to find a clock at the last minute when you and your opponent realize you don't have one, you didn't bring one. It really is up to the players in the US to bring their own supplies and materials, which actually leads me to the next category, which is logistics. For the club tournament scene, I guess I will award the UK the victory for this just because it's more inclusive, and I really, really like the league system in the UK. In the UK, the first thing I want to mention is that you have score sheets at all the tournaments where you go, and you're mandated to use those score sheets at every tournament. Whereas in the US, the USCF certifies these notation devices. This one's called a ply counter, and I've used it. It's probably got a couple dozen games on it, but it's out of battery right now, or I would show you, turn it on and show you what it looks like. But it's got a stylus, and while your game is underway, you have to keep the screen on and the board showing at all times. And you basically just record your notation on this as if it was your score sheet. But the drawback to this, in my opinion, is that it doesn't make you write down the notation, it just makes you tap a square. It doesn't even have the square coordinates on it. So this might impair your ability to learn the coordinates by heart, which you might be trying to do. But if you are interested in in the prospect of having something very convenient and easy that you can take with you. It stores your games. The other benefit of this is that you can plug it in straight to your computer and upload your games in an instant. You don't have to sit there in ChessBase and manually put in each move. You can actually just upload your game directly from this. So that was the main reason I got it in the first place. But since I've been in London, yeah, FIDE doesn't allow that stuff, so I left it home. But if you are interested in one, I will attach a link in the description below. In terms of logistics, the main difference between the US and the UK is that in the UK, you have ECF, the English Chess Federation. And in the US, you have the USCF, the United States Chess Federation. Okay, so there is a lot of controversy, admittedly, surrounding these organizations, these types of chess organizations, which we all wish were run a little bit better, a little bit more smoothly. I will say, in my experience, they're both run relatively well. They're both solid organizations. The main drawback to both of them is that they're just not very progressive. As you can see here, the ECF features just about all old white men. And this is a problem no matter what type of organization we're talking about. Same with the USCF. Pretty much all older white guys, just not very progressive. I think chess is a very old school, traditional, conservative industry, and a lot of the old regulations and rule books and just ideas in general are, I'm not going to get into details, but are just a little bit outdated and need to more regularly be reevaluated. And I think that is going to be pretty equivalent whether we're talking about the ECF or the USCF. Let's see what else. Ooh, the USCF actually gives you these membership cards. Kind of fancy. You can put it in your wallet, prove you're an official member. US Chess Federation member. Yeah, and the USCF actually also certifies coaches at different levels. So right now I'm a level 1 USCF certified chess coach, and the ECF, to my knowledge, doesn't provide any coaching opportunities like that. So I think the UCF, in terms of what they provide, there might be a few more bells and whistles to come along with it. Here's the pricing for the ECF. It's going to be a little bit cheaper across the board. And as you go up in the price categories, it's not going to change much of what it gets you. In my experience, the silver membership is more than enough. They give you access to Chess Magazine, Chess Life Magazine. Yeah, there's very little difference in terms of what you're paying for as you go up. So it's a little bit cheaper overall for ECF, but in the USCF, they actually do offer pretty hefty discounts for younger players, which is a pro for me. But for this category of logistics and organization, I think I'm gonna have to give it another draw. They're very, very comparable organizations in my opinion. Another benefit of living in the UK when you're a chess player is that you have much more easier centralized access to the rest of Europe, to other strong chess events like, you know, Reykjavik Open, or there's a lot of good ones in Germany and Greece, and just annual staple events that you can actually plan your year around. And I think that's a huge benefit. Whereas in the US, you still have to travel, but you're not getting the benefit of seeing the rest of the world, seeing other countries, enjoying other cultures. It can be a little bit more annoying to travel within the US when that's sort of necessary as a chess player. Okay, so the next category I want to cover is coaching opportunities, because a lot of club players want to at least make a part-time living, make a little bit of extra cash on the side by sharing your knowledge that you've gained with an excessive amount of YouTube hours spent with your fellow neighbors, which is a great idea, and something that I have done and want to continue to do on a more regular basis. So it's really important to me personally which country gives me the best opportunity to do that. And for me, I think this one has to go to the UK, because the UK has a lot of different organizations and individuals that have spent the time and energy to start up a chess organization which you have the luxury of benefiting from while not having to put in any of the advertising work. So yeah, they might take a little bit of a cut, but they actually, a lot of them really do pay well. For example, Wallace Chess actually pays $40 an hour, I think at least. The downside to coaching, regardless of whether you're in the US or the UK, is that it's very part-time. When they say part-time, they really mean part-time. They are going to give you just a few hours a week, if that. Mostly you're going to be before school and after school programs, and It's just an hour at a time, and they're going to be spread out throughout the city or the region. So it can be annoying to have to contend with commuting costs and time lost in between lessons when you're trying to fit more than one into the same day. And it's going to be pretty much the same in the US too, but the problem with coaching for clubs in the US is that a lot of clubs are, since they're spread out, they're not so much influenced by the competition that is so inherent in a big city like London. In London, you've got all of these different individuals with their coaching organizations who are competing against each other. So they're very aware that they need to provide a quality service, and you know you can trust them a little bit more going into the situation. But I've taught for more than one chess club in the US who have ended up being run by complete scumbags who actually didn't pay me for the time I put in. So I think the coaching organizations are a little bit more trustworthy in the UK and, you know, are a good option for a little bit of extra income. Okay, so this is a fun category. Elite level players from the US versus the UK. So in the UK, you've got players like Mickey Adams, David Howell, Nigel Short, Luke McShane, Gawain Jones. A lot of very, very strong players who are in the top 100, top 200 players in the world. But honestly, I don't think that even comes close to the historical and the current caliber of players in the US. So you've got the Holy Trinity, the trifecta of Hikaru Nakamura, Wesley So, and Fabiano Caruana. Obviously, everyone knows them, but you've also got Akamsky, who actually immigrated, as did a lot of other strong chess players from Eastern European countries in the 1989 anti-communist revolution when the Iron Curtain came down. Akamsky actually defected from Russia, pretty much just swept the floor with everyone at the New York club at the time, and quickly became the US champion, and has been the recurring US champion for many years. I think this topic of foreign players coming to the US, as did Fabiano and Wesley, yeah, it's a contentious one, and lots of people have different opinions on this. But in my opinion, since America was founded on freedom and inclusion, players who come over, especially to escape persecution, should not be judged whatsoever for being successful in another country from where they're from. I do think it can get into contentious territory when we're talking about big donors who are actually funding and buying other players essentially from other countries in sort of a mercenary approach to building, an arsenal of elite level players for the Olympiad, for example. Fabiano Caruana, I think, is getting funded $200,000 per year just to play for the US Olympiad. I'm not sure on that, don't quote me, but I think I read that somewhere. There are 36 Grandmasters in the UK and 101 Grandmasters in the US, and you can think about this in a lot of different ways. For example, the population difference of the UK versus the US is 1/5. So if you take 20% of 101, let's just say 100, that'd be 20 Grandmasters. So the UK, proportionally to the US, per capita has more Grandmasters technically. So if you're evaluating it that way, then technically England is producing more Grandmasters per capita. But regardless, with respect to the fact that the US is a younger country than the UK, I think its chess history is a bit richer. You've got Bobby Fischer, obviously. You've got Paul Morphy, Pal Banco, Marshall, the list goes on. Okay, so the last category I want to mention is clubs. So in the UK, as I mentioned before, clubs are much more condensed geographically, and therefore clubs can interact with each other and compete against each other with much greater ease, and that is a huge benefit to playing for a club in the UK. Clubs are just much older, and they've got a lot of tradition behind them. A lot of them have really cool stories, so that's pretty appealing to me. Also in the UK, I've noticed there are a lot of dedicated junior clubs and a lot of clubs dedicated to the improvement of junior players, which is really great. And that's not something that I see replicated in the US. For example, the St. Louis Chess Club, even though they have scholastic programs and they're in schools, it's not their focus per se. They do elite level tournaments and they cater to players of all strengths, and while there are smaller ones, I don't think there are any super prominent organizations in the US that are making it their mission to promote the game amongst junior players. And in the US, this is another thing that is very funding contingent, are the success of clubs throughout the US. It's really dependent on whether a wealthy donor who happens to be into chess comes along and decides to shell out a bunch of money to sponsor it, or to build one like Rex has. Whenever I Googled what Rex Singfield does, Google told me that he is an index fund pioneer, whatever that means. You got me. Yeah, so I don't really like that aspect of US chess, but it's a harsh reality that we all have to deal with. So when it comes to the club scenes, I'm gonna have to give this one to the UK because they've got better interaction between clubs and more dedicated clubs for juniors. And you know what? I'm just gonna throw another point to the US because this video is coming to you straight from America's heartland, and you know, I make the rules. So given that I've charitably granted an extra point to the US side, turns out the verdict is even. Chess is great in both places, but it can be improved upon. For example, I really like the scene here in the US, except for that it's unfortunately just a little bit too spread out for my taste and a little bit too elitist and dependent on funding. And in the UK, while there's not quite as much going on per se, I think it's very inclusive. There's league play, which is huge, and it's just very central and convenient to get around to other European tournaments with it. But if you disagree, if you want to share your experiences, your knowledge about either the UK or the US chess scene or both, please do share in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So I hope you liked this breakdown of my experience of the similarities and differences between chess here, chess there. I'll leave a bunch of links to organizations and entities I've mentioned below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.